Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. In the Strategic Coach Program since 1989, I have coached individuals from ages 20 to 86, so 66 years difference, and every age in between those 2 points. One of the things that I find is that there's two types of entrepreneurs, if I had to break it down just into two different performances that I see inside of the structures of Strategic Coach. And one of them are people who grow for a while and get to the achievement level of an original ambition that they had at the start of their entrepreneurial career. So maybe they're in their early 20s and they have an ambition. And this ambition is actually measured by income. Largely it's measured by quality of life, lifestyle, and what their status is. And they get to that point, and it may take them 20 years, it may take them 30 years, but when they get to that, then they do not grow any further than that because they've achieved their goal. I call them Ambition 1 people. So their first ambition was to get to that point, and that's why they became an entrepreneur. And they worked very hard, and they used lots of imagination, and they used lots of creativity. There was risk-taking to get them there. But once they get there and all their goals from 20 years old are satisfied, then they don't grow any further. Then there's what I call Ambition 2 people. And Ambition 2 people do that first ambition. They, of course, grow in the same way. But when they get to the end of Ambition 1 and they've reached that first level, then they start over again. And they go to a level that is much, much higher than they achieved in Ambition 1. So what everybody else considered successful, they just saw that as stage 1. That was just getting to where they could really start growing, and then they really do start growing. And when they grow exponentially. They don't match in Ambition 2 what they achieved in Ambition 1. They go 10 times bigger. They go 100 times bigger. And I'm going to tell you what their secret is, and you can probably relate to this when you've made a real jump in your performance and results. What individuals do to create Ambition 2 is they start going back in their memory to everything that they achieved, step by step, stage by stage, in Ambition 1, and they transform the past. They transform the past in two ways. One is they just zero in on what was really successful in the past. And what I mean by that, they zero in on a particular type of experience. So they say right now you're 40 years old and you really have achieved Ambition 1. And you really started when you were 15. And you go back to the earliest point where you were really acting as an entrepreneur, and you say to yourself, I'm going to identify every situation where I had an intention to really be successful in a new way, and I organized my mind, and I organized my resources and actions, and I followed through, and I actually achieved that. Not only did I achieve what I wanted, but I created all sorts of new opportunities. You can think of many of those things in a matter of 5 minutes. If you got a sheet of paper out, you would immediately be able to identify easily a dozen to 20 of these situations. And it wouldn't be just in your business life, it would also be in your personal life. So the big thing is that you intended to improve yourself in a particular way. You organized your thinking, you organized your resources, you focused your actions, you focused your communications, you achieved the goal, and you took a big jump. And that's what you remember about your past. So I call this intentionality. They're like intentionality blocks. So if you think about your past, throughout your past you have a lot of stuff. So the rest of your experience is stuff. And I said the thing that you really want to zero in here is just those situations where you were highly intentional and highly successful as a result of being really clear about what you wanted. Now, as you do this, something remarkable happens. Your past starts getting smaller. And what I mean by that, you began to realize that I don't have to remember 1,000 things from my past. all I have to remember is just one particular type of situation, this intentionality success. That's what we'll call it. It's sort of a block of experience. You may put together a list of 30 or 40 intentionality successes in the past. And now you're able to do something else, because you'll notice that when you do this for the past, each of these intentionality successes becomes literally a tool for doing the same type of thing in the future. But now you're more experienced. Now you have many more capabilities. Now you have much higher level of skill. Your credibility is much higher. Your connections are much greater. And so now you can look at the future and say, I'm going to create now ambition 2 out of intentionality successes. In the same way I did in the past, except in the past I didn't know I was doing that, but now looking back and making sense of my past, I know exactly how to grow my future. And because you have just made your past really simple, you've made your past much smaller. And what I mean by that is you've gotten rid of everything that you think about your past instead of your intentionality successes. And now you have all those great, great successes from the past, and you use those as the building blocks for building the future. And it's going to be much easier, and it's going to happen much faster, and it's going to be much bigger than anything you've achieved. And now you are totally conscious of what it takes to make a jump, because you've identified it from your own past, and now you are really going to accelerate. This is going to be a huge multiplier. This is why the individuals who have 2 ambitions, not just 1 ambition, are so much more successful, and they're much more important, and they have a much bigger impact. It's just that they do something totally different with their experience. Just reviewing, ambition 1 people wanted to get to a certain point. They grew and grew and grew and got to that point, but they never grew again. Ambition 2 people get to ambition 1, look backwards, take their entire past and make it smaller, but much more strategically important, by just identifying in their past their intentionality successes, and then they use those as raw materials for creating a much bigger and much better future that we call ambition number 2.